Alright, everybody, in today's episode, I want to discuss why the Philadelphia Eagles lost the Super Bowl. A lot of people think it might be the last play with the holding penalty on Bradbury, or it could be the Isaac Seumalo false start, or the Quez Watkins drop. But in all reality, the reason why the Eagles lost the Super Bowl was because of their defensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon's inability to diagnose the field conditions and send more pressure to get Patrick Mahomes. We saw all day that players were slipping all over the place. So the Eagles' biggest advantage in this game was their defensive front. But if you watch the tape, Hassan Reddick probably slipped 8 different times when he was trying to wrap around the edge. So, what do you do then? If you can't get pressure with your front four, you have to send help. You need to blitz safeties. You need to mix it up with linebacker blitzes. You need to press the corners and then blitz a corner. You need to give Patrick Mahomes a myriad of looks in order to confuse him. Because if you just go in man coverage or you're just in zone and you're only rushing four on every single play, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are going to pick you apart. In the first half, we saw Travis Kelce dominate the entire first half. And then Gannon, pretty predictably started double covering him. Then Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid identified this and they started giving the ball to Juju Smith-Schuster. So, what could have Jonathan Gannon done? Send pressure, dude. I don't understand how you can go the whole game no sacks. No sacks. I think they only had 7 pressures in the entire game. So that left the Eagles at a huge disadvantage. It's the NFL. Cornerbacks and safeties are only going to be able to cover people for so long. So if you don't get that immediate pressure, Patrick Mahomes is going to extend the plays like he always does, get out of the pocket, play that backyard football, and make play after play after play. The Chiefs had the ball 4 times in the second half. The first 3 times, they scored touchdowns. Okay. One of those touchdowns was on the Eagles punter's horrific 35-yard punt, and then the punt returner returned the ball 35 yards down to the 5. Okay. The Eagles need to get rid of this punter. He is horrific. He did the same thing last year in the Tampa Bay game. He's not an NFL quality punter. 38 yards is absolutely bush. The dude needs to go. But I've been a huge detractor of Jonathan Gannon's style of defense since he got here. I'll give him a little bit of a pass in this game because the field conditions were absolutely terrible, but you have to be able to adapt. That's how you beat good teams. You can't just continue doing the same thing over and over and over again and expect different results, because that is the definition of insanity, right? So Jonathan Gannon's inability to diagnose that his edge rushers and interior defensive linemen were not able to get the footing to get the pressure on Mahomes, that means you gotta send help. But, we could point out a few things during this game that we wish to have back. The Jalen Hurts fumble, the Quez Watkins drop, penalties. I think the Birds had 7 penalties, which isn't a ton of penalties, but it's enough, especially when they come at the worst time. But everything is looking great for this franchise moving forward. It would not surprise me if we see the Eagles back in the Super Bowl next year. The NFC East is looking not so good. I think this whole Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Cowboys connection is on the way out. Zeke is getting older. He's got a lot of miles on those legs. I don't see him being an elite running back in the NFL anymore. Dak Prescott continues to have bad games at the worst possible times. The Giants do look a little bit better, but I'm not completely sold on Daniel Jones. We'll see if he gets re-signed. And Saquon Barkley's ability to stay healthy. The Commanders are absolute bush. So I don't foresee them being competitive for probably the next 5 to 7 years. And the rest of the NFC is, I mean, San Francisco is going to be very good again next year. And with Christian McCaffrey having another year in the system, it'll be interesting to see what they do with Purdy and all their myriad of different quarterbacks between Garoppolo and Trey Lance. It'll be really interesting to see how that all shakes out. But we can't look at one play when we're breaking down how the Eagles lost the Super Bowl, but we can look at how outcoached Jonathan Gannon was in the second half of that game. Andy Reid knew everything he was doing. Those 2 touchdowns they have without any defenders within 10 yards of them is completely inexcusable. When you're on the goal line, you have to just go helmet to helmet. You need to have a man on man. You line up with your guy and you stick with him no matter where he goes on the field. Because if you get into the zones and you're switching and they're switching and all this crap going on, people get confused and that's how people get wide open. 2 absolutely unexcusable touchdowns. If the Eagles were able to make one of those 3 first touchdowns a field goal, it's a completely different game, right? So, Eagles fans have a lot to look forward to in the coming years. Jalen Hurts is only 24 years old. I'm hoping that the Eagles sign Hurts to a long-term extension this offseason, and they also have the New Orleans Saints first-round pick, which is coming in, I think it's between 10 or 11 and 12. I'm not sure exactly what pick that is, but it's an early first-round pick, and they're going to have a late first-round pick. So they're going to have 3 picks in the top, 60 picks, which is great. I'm assuming with that first pick, they're going to go either interior lineman or edge rusher, which with Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham hitting free agency, Ndamukong Suh, he is also going to be a free agent. The Eagles have a lot of different needs they have on the defensive front with those guys retiring. Losing Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham to retirement would hurt the team not only skill set wise, because they're on the last legs of their career, but they bring a lot to that locker room. So it'll be interesting what decisions they make if they're going to come back for one more year. And also Jason Kelce, he has been on defensive retirement for the last several years, so it'll be interesting if this Super Bowl loss leaves a bad taste in his mouth and he wants to run it back one more time and see if he can get that one more ring for his finger. But thanks for tuning in. If you guys made it this far, please subscribe to the channel. I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I'm going to do some football and fights now. So we're going to expand what we're doing on this channel. So please tune in, hit that like button.